I was not here. So top 5 things college football fans need to get used to. Because the world's changing. In boredom yesterday, and I don't do tweet storms very often. The one I did before was at Christmas when I was stuck on a plane at my destination, just sitting on the runway because of Southwest Airlines, and I tweeted Pete Buttigieg like 1,000 things. So now I just started tweeting SEC fans from certain things, and the responses I got back kind of opened us up. I don't know if everybody grasps that the college football world is changing. And so I wanted to kind of go through that. Number 5, successful records are going to look different. They're going to look different. You're going to have to stop looking at, Georgia just went 14 or 15-0. 15-0. They went 15-0. That may happen occasionally, but I do think that it's going to be less and less the standard of this is what you're going to have to do in a 12-team playoff to look at a successful season.
You could be 10-4.
Yeah.
And win it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
probably not, but yeah, you could.
But the 12-0s, the 13-0s, which was the standard. I mean, Brigham Young, I think one time, it's going to be rare.
That was something that I really found to be one of the more annoying counterpoints to the whole expansion of the playoff was that, now you're going to have teams with 2 or 3 losses, and it's like if the team would. I'll say this again. I've never backed off of this because I don't really think there's much of an argument against it, but if somebody wants to provide one, I'll gladly hear it out and change my opinion if need be. But I don't care if you lost 3 regular season games. I don't know what the odds are even of a 3-loss team getting into the playoff. But if you lost a couple regular season games, okay. I guess we're not going to have our perfect, undefeated, clean white sheet of paper national champion that I guess people feel like is the only, you got to be 1 loss or 0 loss. If a 3-loss team gets in the playoff and they roll through that bracket that we just showed a little while ago, they deserve to be the dadgum national champion. I don't give a damn what is in the loss column. I don't care how many numbers are there. If they roll through those 4 weeks of beating the likes of some combination of a team from the SEC and a team from the Big 12 and a team from whoever, then they're deserving of it. So, yeah, I do think that records are going to have to go a little bit differently in the eyes of people who are used to it. It's got to be perfection or 1 loss or it's not worthwhile.
Jack Huffman, totally agree, Craig. By the way, one of the questions is there a possibility now, and I can't get the name, my screen today on this chat room, someone could go 17-0?
Yeah.
12-0 in the regular season, win a conference championship, and would you play 4 games to win the championship? The play-in games?
Well, no. I mean, if you're undefeated, you're probably not playing
16-0, yeah.
If you're undefeated, you're probably not playing the first round.
Yeah, that's right.
You're probably getting a bye.
That's
so
true.
you would play a couple more games after that.
Yeah.
So you'd be looking at, with a conference championship game, 16-0.
Yeah,
it would be. And now,
Jeez.
maybe in some wild year, there's a team that's undefeated playing in the first round, but I don't think that would really happen.
Like Tulane.
Well,
if Tulane had gone undefeated.
But, yeah.
And then
if they ran the table, then yeah, they would be 17-0 maybe.
Yeah, and they weren't one of the highest ranked, conference champions, then they wouldn't get that bye that first week. Number 4, schedules will be harder to pad because all these conferences are changing and different, and they're going to rotate more year in and year out, which is good news in that you may not get behind the bad weight of the schedule. Like the Big Ten, you could get behind the bad weight of that schedule for 4 or 5 years in a cycle, and then your team is maybe getting better, but it's hard for anybody, including recruits, to see because, you've got Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and Wisconsin in the same year, and then somebody else in the league only has one of those teams. So now it's going to rotate year to year. You'll be able to navigate that better, and because the difference between 12 and 13 is probably going to come down in a lot of cases to who played the better week 1 or week 2 non-conference opponent. You maybe aren't going to be able to kind of throw some of those in there. Those UT Martins are going to have to go away.
Just an example locally, Baylor's finally starting to play Power 5 schools, as somebody brought up yesterday. Brigham Young the last 2 years, a big boy school, but not Power 5, and that is necessity.
Well, I think of UCF. UCF, you could argue, they're undefeated, and, then people wanted to poke holes in their schedule or what have you. Okay, well, if they want to be national champions and they're able to get through this, they're going to have to play somebody. There's not going to be hey, we played this bowl game that was assigned to us that we also earned, And even though it's not the national championship, we get to claim it. And, they had an argument that I think was worthwhile, just in saying like, well, hey, you're not going to give us the opportunity and we went undefeated. But, now that's not going to happen. That's going to be, okay, you went undefeated in the regular season, you won your conference. Now you're at some point going to play Georgia or LSU or whoever.
The year they went unbeaten, they beat Maryland, okay, who's now a part of the Big Ten. Now, this is 2017. Memphis, obviously not. But then they ran off wins against, they were ranked among the top 25 after about the 5th or 6th game. But they did play Maryland. And then, of course, beat Auburn in the bowl game, 34-27. But, yeah, everybody now you have to be very – no matter if you're SEC or not, everybody has to start looking at that non-conference schedule.
Yeah. Number 3, dynasties may not last as long. I think this is maybe a longer-term thing. So I don't know. Right now, everybody's fearing what Georgia's about to do. But we only have one more year before this thing goes to 12, and then it could make it immensely harder for even a team like Georgia to run it all the way through. So, and plus getting an opportunity to play in the playoff more, some of those are, again, the big teams are always going to hoard the most recruits, but where the difference lies in the Alabamas and Georgias and teams like that is those people stay there and are there longer, and they have so many of them. But if you took 5 or 6 off of each roster every year, and even if they didn't all go to the same place and just proliferated them around, then the talent at those schools is going to get less. So they won't be able to, run away and hide for as long. There will still be dynasties. It will still be college football, but there are things that are changing.
Would it not even lead to more? Because of the haves and have-nots?
No, I don't think. Okay. I think the haves are going to lose a little bit in this because what happened in pro sports? Every single pro sport when free agency came in.
Yep.
More parity. And then they've changed, like, every time there's the dynasty running away, pro sports changes a rule to make sure that there's a salary cap, there's a luxury tax, there's all these things that teams with the most money and most privileges can't go run away and hide. The transfer portal's the first one of those, and we'll see how it navigates through. And look, it's been a 50-year process in pro sports. It will be the same in college sports.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia next year might be a dynasty unlike any we've ever seen if they go win the national title because they'll be the first with a three-peat. Yeah. So, that's probably your certainly your next best bet and maybe your last bet at seeing something like that. I don't know if this leads to the Alabamas and the Georgia still dominating the college football, top of the pyramid or not, but I do know that, like, there is going to be more opportunities for a TCU to beat a Michigan. And ruin their season, or games like that are going to be far more possible than they are under the current system. And I know it's not likely that a TCU, like we just saw, goes and then beats this team, and then goes and beats this team, and then they go and beat Georgia. Like, that's, like, I do think that extra amount of playing time and playing games is going to benefit those types of schools a lot more. And then, but any system we've had, it's the same schools anyways. This just gives more opportunities for some upsets, and I know those might not be every single year or whatever, but it's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect, and this is better than a computer telling me who I think should be playing for a national title rather than the on the field, and this is better than some voters who I know don't look past the conference that they cover and maybe the top 25 rankings that are released every week, them deciding who deserves to be playing in these games. This will truly be as much on the field as it's ever been before. It's not going to be even across the board, but it is on the field. We don't have to wonder, well, how would UCF have done against Georgia? Well, we'll now freaking see it, and we can see whether or not it is how people expected it to be.
And by the way, and I hope because of what Tulane did to USC and what they did throughout the season, they also beat Kansas State, that next year when they do the top 25, they don't say, well, that was last year, because they don't say that with all the other schools. And this finally, I don't fear Georgia winning 3 in a row. I think that would be incredible.
It'd be history.
I think it would be incredible because we've had great teams that couldn't do it, great teams that couldn't do it. And I'd love to see somebody do it, whether it's Georgia or ever see it. But I don't fear them winning 3 in a row.
Yeah. The NFL, number two, the NFL and college will be less distinguishable in the way that they evaluate styles, all the way rosters are built, because you're going to have to build for a playoff structure now. And that's what NFL teams do. You have to build a roster for a playoff structure. You have to react to your coaches in a playoff structure. No longer, Jack asked me this before the show. He and Garrett talked about it on their podcast. Is a bowl game going to be... it's going to be maybe benchmarked along the way. Did you make a bowl game from a team that wasn't making bowl games? Did you win a couple bowl games in a row? Have you gotten us to the 12th team in the country and made the playoff? Are you winning in the playoff? Are you constantly not getting to the next level? So things are going to change in that regard as well, because that's how NFL teams evaluate their coaches and programs, and colleges are going to have to do it the same way.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. And that's what some people, now you talk about fear, there are some people that fear that just you can't distinguish between the two.
You mean that sport that just goes ahead and has their two teams voted on to play in the national championship? No, the 14 play. No, wait. What did the NFL do recently? Oh, they expanded the playoffs.
Yeah.
They added more playoff games. Imagine that. No, and I know that wasn't for competition. That was for money. Well, guess what? College football's doing it for money too. So that's why you want NIL. Well, money's got to come from somewhere. And, they're cashing in because the product's, arguably the number 2 brand in America. They see the profits that can be made. There's also a lot more money. They're not being able to just stuff in their Scrooge McDuck banks like they were used to when they didn't have to give any money to the athletes. Well, now they do. So let the money flow, man. I mean, it's only going to be a matter of time before gambling's a part of college football. I think that Brett Yormark's already kind of indicated that he's not like pushing for it, but he's open to that's probably around the corner. And that's another avenue where more money could be coming from. But yeah, it's not going to be the exact same. For one, there's a salary cap in the NFL. Mm-hmm. There are contracts in the NFL. There are a lot of differences, but there's money. That's the answer to most everything. Money's out there. So in that regard, yes, they will be less distinguishable.
Well, and if collective bargaining comes to college athletics, then those things will be applied as well, because again,
there has to be.
That's what collective bargaining is. And number one, this is something I think that fans of certain SEC fan bases need to wrap their arms around. Tradition only matters if you're currently living up to it. So Alabama's 100-year history of football tradition matters now because Alabama is living up to it. Miami's doesn't because they're not. So saying that it was this way in 2001, look, Miami... Ask them how it's gone trying to live off of that. The kids they're recruiting right now were not alive. They were not alive in 2001. So you cannot sit there and say that matters. If you continue to currently live up to it, in my tweet storm about the SEC, I got a lot of people saying the SEC has won 17 of the last 26 national championships or whatever it is. Yes, and that's great. That's not what I was talking about. But ask me about Tennessee in 1998, and they're wandering through the desert for 24 years. Ask me about Florida in 2008, and after Nick Saban ripped their guts out in 2009, and they've gone to their 4th coach since Urban Meyer. Tell me about Auburn and the emotional roller coaster that they throw their fans on year in and year out since 2010 when they won and 2013 when they lost on the last play. So those are different things. Those are...
Nobody remembers Tommy Frazier at Nebraska. Is that what you're trying to say? I mean, I do. I'm talking about younger players may not, and some of them do, but that was...
I don't know, man. I feel like, what else is Matt Rule selling? Is he selling the cold?
Yeah.
Is he selling being in the
he's
selling
Nebraska football when they were elite, yeah.
Yeah, he's selling the rabid fan base. He's selling the big red out stadium. And what is that from? That's from tradition. So I'll disagree on this one, Paul. I do think tradition matters. I think in this sport it absolutely matters. Now, I do think, you have to win. Ultimately in this sport, winning is all that matters. It doesn't matter if you've got 100 years of history or 25 years of history. Just win and everything will work out in your favor. Ultimately, the money will come pouring in. The mainstream TV coverage will come pouring in. Just win. But for those that are traditional powers, this is where it differs. They don't have to always win, And just all of a sudden, as soon as they win, it's just like picking the ball back up and running with it like they never dropped it to begin with. They have that built-in advantage, and I don't think that ever goes away. But you do have to, at some point, win games.
That's what I'm saying here, though. Like,
Yeah.
it only matters if you are living up to it.
Right.
The longer that you don't live up to that tradition, the harder it is to be able to tell people. And look, Matt Rule's got a tough sell. I know he's going to sell it, but it's only going to matter if those two things intersect. Otherwise, you're telling me about something that I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like, it's like. The other night, Amanda and I were watching a show, and it was it was an older show. It was from the 90s, one that she remembers. And one of the guest stars was Al from Happy Days. I was like, oh, it's Al from Happy Days. And it went right over her head. So then I was trying to describe Happy Days to her. And then I was like, well, this is probably what me telling, like, you know, Miami's maybe a little more recency because you got Ed Reed and guys like that in that class, but somebody trying to tell Tennessee about T. Martin. Like, hey,
98.
T. Martin went here and Peerless Price.
Hell, ESPN didn't even know that. Remember Peyton Manning?
Yeah, exactly. ESPN didn't even know. They put up a thing. Peyton Manning, national champion.
And that's lazy. And I understand
Yeah.
why they would use him, but that's also not the guy that won the national title.
Yeah, it's T. Martin.
Yeah.
So
That's good. Yeah, I love it. Great top 5. That should get a ton of